What's up, guys? It's your boy Rich here. Whenever we think about legendary brand names, we think about names like Rolex, or Haagen-Dazs, or Attra, or Sony. Wait, Attra? Let me explain. And here it is in 40 millimeters, 47 from lug to lug, 10.2 millimeters tall, and with a 20 millimeter lug width. And I think the name, the Classic Sport, is very befitting for this model. You know, it is not the type of dress watch in the tradition that we associate dress watches that are being worn exclusively with suits. I think this is a much more versatile watch. In fact, I think it is a very nice daily wear. And it certainly is a nice departure from the very crowded sports watch segments that we often come across, divers watches or chronographs. And there isn't anything wrong with those. I love those types of sports watches. But I think Attra's Classic Sport is a nice and welcome departure. So when Lucas, the owner of Attra Watches, introduced me to the Classic Sport, I was really intrigued by this. And when I saw this watch in person, I thought I could immediately tell just how well made this watch is. And I've had a couple of conversations with Lucas, who was a very nice guy, a very passionate watchmaker. You could tell that he was very proud of this watch, and there is a lot to be proud about. So one of the first things that caught my attention was just the overall look of having a very simplified watch like this. And I don't think this is a very fancy schmancy type of watch that is going to turn our heads like some of the very elaborate types of larger sports watches. But I still think that this is going to capture people's attention because of how simple this is and how different this is from a lot of other watches. And I think the quality is there. So this, to me, is going to be a really great daily wear. And not that I'm comparing it to, dare I say it, do it. But I think the owner or a wearer of an Attra would probably be somewhat like a Grand Seiko. And I am not comparing this to a Grand Seiko. I'm just comparing the mindset. When we wear a Grand Seiko, and I own a Grand Seiko, we know that we're not wearing that watch to impress anyone else. We just appreciate the craftsmanship and history of a Grand Seiko. And I think that kind of mindset also translates with Attra, because it is not a very fancy, oversized sports watch. We just appreciate how nice looking this is, very striking looking, and we're going to realize how nicely made and crafted it is. The Classic Sports is a Swiss-made watch, and there is a lot to like about it. And if we can get past the striking dial, we'll notice some other cool features on the dial itself. It has nice applied indices, a really cool minute track, and a nice logo and branding. And, I've got to spend quite a few conversations with Lucas, and they've all been very pleasant. And I happen to know that he spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to come up with the right name. And the story behind the name Attra stems from a name that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it just has a really cool ring to it. Like a lot like Rolex is what Lucas was trying to convey. Rolex doesn't have a specific or any specific meaning. It's just a really cool name, and I think that's what he was going for with Attra. I happen to agree that Attra is a really cool name. The finishing is quite nice. It is polished on the sides, brushed on the lugs, and then polished underneath the bezel, and then on top of the bezel it has a really nice brushed texture. So I think it comes together really nicely in the contrasting brushed and polished finishing. The crown is signed in a nice frosted finishing, and while my version is in green, it is also available in blue, black, and white. And I got to spend some time with the blue version, and I happen to like that blue a lot, but I think I'm leaning towards green as my favorite color right now. And because it has the nice green dial, I wanted to see what it would look like on a contrasting strap. And I think this black silicone strap is a really nice contrast look to it. And it is an excellent rubber strap here. I find it really comfortably to wear. The buckle is signed, and while I wanted to see what the green dial would look like on the black silicone strap, it also comes with a very easy, quick release system. So let's have a look and see what it looks like on the matching green leather strap. Here we go. Not bad. I'm not actually sure which way I like it now that I see it on the green leather strap. And it does come with a nice deploying clasp. And there we're going to get a look at the solid case back with a really cool logo. So let's get some wrist shots while we have it freshly on the green leather strap. There's another look at the solid case back. So what is the movement that is powering Attra's Classic Sport? Well, it uses the Swiss Solida 200 automatic movement with 38 hours of power reserve. And the retail price is, or I should say will be, $9.99. But there is a special pre-order price starting October 8th. And that special pre-order price is just $549. So at either $9.99 or at $549, obviously at $549 that is much more attractive. It still to me is a no-brainer for a nicely made Swiss-made timepiece, and that's how I would refer to this as. Even though it is a watch, it just has that aura of being called a timepiece. It certainly is a throwback to the earlier better made classic sports watches. And, you know, I can see myself reaching for this as a nice daily wear, even in my very crowded divers and chronograph watch world. So anyone that is looking for a departure from that sports segment and is looking for a nice daily wear, that I just can't see getting tired of this, because it sort of has that same vibe as our Rolex Datejust or the Rolex OP. It just has that classic look that is really almost tired proof. So to me, anyone that is looking for that type of watch, I think Attra's Classic Sport is a really nice option for us. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time. So while Lucas is from New York, I forgot where I was going with that. So why did I pick those random names at the introduction of the video? Well, there was an interesting article online about some of the most legendary branded names that started out meaningless, where there was no intent behind the names. And Sony is a really great example. And while Sony had its long, complicated name in its native Japan, it wasn't translating so well in the US, so the name was simply shortened to Sony. And some people believe that it was American slang for American lad, Sonny, and that was deemed friendly. And ever since then, Sony never looked back.